So, yesterday's homework, you saw how silver was flowing out of Great Britain to China because the British were buying tea. Today, we're going to look at what the British did in order to create a market inside of China, which was to sell opium. So, opium is actually a plant, it comes from the poppy. And what happens is that when people grow poppies, they will, when they're in their town or area, they'll actually harvest it using a knife and they cut it until the sap starts to come out. And then once the sap comes out, they collect that. So workers in Britain's Indian Empire actually had to pay their taxes this way at that time. They had to pay their taxes with the sap from these plants, and then they gave those sap collectings to the British as their tax payments. Initially, opium and opioid use was legal. You can see this bottle comes from New York. But after the doctors and pharmacists began to see their patients coming over and over and over again, they began to realize that it was highly addictive and they stopped the legal sales of opium in their own countries. But they did not stop the production or sale in their own empire. So here you can see the sap, and then they're going to roll that sap and cover it with poppy leaves and poppy stems to kind of keep the sap from getting damaged during shipment. And again, these are huge factories that are making this. They're drying out the sap here before putting it into the cannonballs. All of these workers many times were also paid in opium, and contact with opium can sometimes create addiction as well. So now you're not only collecting taxes in opium, paying your workers in opium, but some of your workers and taxpayers are now becoming your customers because they're becoming addicted to opium. And again, this is government sanctioned. This is a government official doing weights and quality control in a government factory inside of India. This is not illegal drug smugglers that are producing this. This is the British East India Company under the British government. And these factories are massive. Here's an outside of a factory. Here's the inside of a factory. These are football fields long in length. And you can see from the scale, here are people climbing up along to put the cannonballs into storage so that they can dry. Just really, really big factories. And these were all throughout the eastern part of India, western part of Bangladesh. You can see the British overseers in one of these mixing rooms, these giant mixing rooms. And the British believed they had the right to do this because of capitalism. The Chinese, in their opinion, were choosing to use opium and they were choosing to sell opium. So they felt like they had the right to do this. Unfortunately, because people couldn't sometimes grow enough to pay the taxes and to produce food on the plots of land that they had, these, we call them cash crops. If it took up too much of a farmer's plot of land, it created famine throughout India for them to produce this at the time.